For those that really want to follow up, there's a free 30-minute assessment if you send the code word Bronte to the email address attached. I'll talk about some of the initiatives that I'm working in partnership with the Canadian Federation for Economic Education. And this session will be recorded, so taking notes is completely optional, but you can if you want to. Once again, the information session, the objectives are to ensure the financial well-being and sustainability of members and the wider community we serve by sharing relevant financial relief resources from our governments, be it federal, provincial, municipal, financial institutions, and private organizations. But more importantly, to provide professional and practical solutions to be implemented to ensure present financial wellness and future financial sustainability. So let's look at some of the most recent updates. And anyone that is tuning into the news or to the television, we know that things are updating, seems like on a daily basis, but I wanted to capture some of the more key general facts that are out there as it pertains to COVID-19, as well as the financial impact that's a spin-off from it. 1 million individuals lost their job last month. In regards to self-isolation, the most updated time frame they're projecting is 12 to 18 months, and that's might be changed in the next coming weeks as well. Best case scenario from a mortality standpoint, if we adhere to all of the risk management procedures that the World Health Organization is advocating, they're predicting on the low end 11,000 to 22,000 deaths. Worst case scenario, if we don't and things really get out of hand, it could potentially be up to 350,000 according to the news reports. And also the financial relief period as far as the provincial and federal government and municipal governments are concerned is from March 15th to October the 3rd as of now. In hearing this information, I tend to hear three different types of response: fear, anxiety, and for some people, even despair. So I'm hopeful that the information that we will share this afternoon will help to lower these type of responses and make you more optimistic and more positive moving forward. Coming from a reference point, just giving a Christian mindset, I wanted to highlight three principles. These are general principles. Of these we're taking from a biblical standpoint as well, and it's important for us to understand them. In terms of navigating times as such, to everything there is a season. God saves us in the storm, not just from the storm, and a crisis is an opportunity to show on the outside what we believe on the inside. Ecclesiastes 3:1-8, talking about seasons or difficult moments in our lives. Seasons are inevitable, but they are also temporary. And that's important to understand about seasons or difficult times in our lives. Seasons also guarantees change is coming. We're coming out of winter and we know spring is coming, right? And then after that, summer. So nothing is really permanent. And in knowing that, seasons gives us hope for the future because we know eventually the situation will change. We don't know how long. Sometimes winter might be 3 months. Sometimes it might be 5 months. Sometimes it might be a little bit longer, but it doesn't matter. If we hang on through the winter or seasons or difficult times in our lives, we know that we can have hope. And the last thing is, seasons are necessary for growth. In order for us to grow as individuals, be it academically, we must have a test or a quiz. If it's physically, we need to have an assessment. If it's medically, we need to have a medical report or an update. It's important that we have assessments. I call assessments crises. I call them difficulties. Not in the sense that they are difficult, but it assesses where we are to ensure what changes we need to make in order to be sustainable in the future. And this text also says that God saves us in the storm, not just from the storm. And the Bible text we know very well, Matthew 7:24-27, about the wise and the foolish man that built their house on the sand and one on the rock. So I wouldn't go through the story, but I wanted to highlight the principle. And to me, this story was highlighted significantly back in September last year. I'm from the Bahamas originally, and the town in which I grew up in experienced a Category 5 hurricane, one that was never experienced before, with sea levels up to 20 feet when the average home is only 1 story and the height of the average house is about 20 feet. And the winds were 235 kilometers. Just to give you a comparison, if you're driving on one of our major highways, it's considered stunt driving if you're driving 150 kilometers, and a police officer can take your vehicle. So the winds were 235 kilometers plus, with water levels like a tsunami, 20 feet. 70,000 people were displaced. 2,000 people were passed away or were unaccounted for. But in the end, my father and my stepmom survived it. In that storm, he went through it like anybody else. On the back end, when I brought them to Canada, unfortunately, he also was diagnosed with stage 4 liver cancer within 4 months. But I say that through it all, his temperament was one of, you know what? I am thankful that I got through the storm. So for those that are listening, I want you to remember these 3 points. 1, everyone gets the same test in life. Right now, worldwide, COVID-19, everyone is experiencing it. The extent to which they're experiencing it might be different, but everyone is experiencing it. And it takes a mighty storm to expose the foundation of our faith or our belief. And the third point is our foundation is more important than our facade. I'm talking about fundamental principles here, and we're going to highlight them even more from a financial standpoint, that regardless of COVID-19, unemployment, whatever it may be in the future, you can be fine while others are panicking. And the last thing is, a crisis is an opportunity to show on the outside what we believe on the inside. And I highlighted a few stories here that we know very well. Basically, when the moment got tough, individuals stood up and they said, you know what, I'm going to shine in moments as such. And they were able to help others during this time. So I just wanted to leave that brief thought with you. And now we'll be going into more of the technical aspects in terms of some of the government reliefs, as well as some of the information that I have prepared for you as a financial consultant. One moment. Okay. Sorry here. Okay. Navigating COVID-19, economic volatility, and government relief measures for business owners as well as individuals. And please remember to submit your questions for Len, and he will direct them to me thereafter. In today's webinar, we'll review fundamental investment principles that are important to your long-term financial well-being, both as a business owner and personally. We'll also discuss the federal government's recently announced economic support for individuals and businesses. We're going to cover the 5 principles of your financial plan, some of the tax date extensions, economic support measures for individuals, measures supporting businesses and employees, and our approach from IG Wealth Management what we call creating your IG living plan. Let's look at the 5 principles. Every IG living plan is built on fundamental principles and practices that have stood the test of time through all market conditions. The principles are, just like the fundamentals I mentioned earlier. 1, you always want to use time to your advantage. 2, you want to have a diversified portfolio. 3, avoid emotional decisions. 4, maintain a long-term focus. And 5, you always want to stay invested. Let's look at some information here in terms of using time to your advantage. This information was garnered by the TSX Composite Total Returns, and we're looking at a time frame from 1947 to this year in terms of how time reduces uncertainty. Right now, if we look at certain portfolios or certain stocks or certain investments, they might be heavily impacted. However, when we look at the long term, depending on your time horizon, you can see that things will always work out in the end. If you look at a 1-month return, for example, in terms of positive returns and negative returns, and this is a long period, we captured over 53 years. The positive returns are typically, on average, about 61% positive, 39% negative. If you look at a 1-year return, and most financial advisors, when they're working with their clients, they will tend to meet with them on an annual basis rather than on a monthly basis. And we allow time to offset the monthly returns. And so if you look at it on a monthly basis, outside of a crisis or recession or depression, returns are typically 73% positive and 27% negative. Over 3 years, 90%, 10%. 5 years, 98%, 2%. And over 10 years, the returns were generally positive, okay? Diversify your portfolio. You never want to put all your eggs in one basket. Rather than focusing on timing and getting the right stock or portfolio, if we diversified according to our risk tolerance, be it conservative, moderate, or aggressive, we can have money managers that are investing our funds for us. And at IG Wealth Management, we have some of the best portfolio managers from around the world. They will therefore invest your funds for you in a diversified portfolio. So when certain things are doing well, certain things might not be doing well, but you will not get a direct hit across the board. So if you look at 2010, the best performer was the Canadian small cap. In 2011, Canadian small bonds. 2012, European equities. And you can see as we go across the board, maybe only twice out of a 10-year period that one particular portfolio was dominant. So the goal is not to micromanage, but assess where you are, know your risk tolerance, and know your particular time frame, and sit back and relax, and things will eventually take care of itself if you're properly managed and you're working with an advisor. The third principle is helping you to manage emotional investment decisions. Most people are in this phase right here, where they're having a lot of nausea or feeling dejected. However, it's a cycle. Because prior to this, or if you're looking at 2009, 2010, coming out of the last recession, individuals got more encouraged. They became confident, they became excited, jubilant, and then as things slipped down, probably at the beginning of this year, they became more agitated, distressed, despair, and nausea. But in time, we will eventually get back to this point, okay? So don't ride the roller coaster. We should expect these types of ups and downs to be in our portfolios or to be in our investments so that when they occur, it will not surprise us, but we can take advantage of times as such. And I'll mention that later on. Maintaining a long-term focus. stay the course to achieve long-term investment goals. This information was compiled by Bloomberg, and they took a look at the S&P and the TSX Composite Price Index between 1948 and 2019. And they compared the percentage returns based on positive years and negative years. And in that time period, we had 50 positive years, which was 69% of the time, and 22 negative years, 31% of the time, sorry. So in the long run, things tend to work out. If we look at 2008, individuals' portfolios were down between 30 to 40%, one of the negative years. But let's look at 2009. Returns went up after 1 year to 30 to 40%. This time, it might not happen that way, but what I'm showing you is for every action, there's an opposite and equal reaction if we have the right time frames as well. Don't panic. And we want to stay invested. So this illustration is also from the S&P and the TSX and the S&P 500 price index comparing 1990, from 1990, to December 31st, 2019. And they're looking at the annualized returns. So what this slide is showing is that individuals that try to time the market compared to those that stayed in the market with these same indices. So individuals that stayed in, these are individuals that are typically conservative or moderate. They just stayed in, didn't make any changes. Their rate of returns were 7.7% with the S&P 500 and 5.0% with the S&P TSX. For individuals that timed the market and they missed 10 of the best days, they went down from earning 7.7% to 5.3% and 2.9% respectively. Those that were timing the market and went in and out and missed 20 of the best days went down. So you can see the decline in trying to time the market. So it's not timing the market, it's time in the market. Stay invested, continue to save, dollar cost average, meaning set aside a monthly amount or bi-weekly amount or weekly amount, and you invest according to your risk tolerance and according to your goal. And in time, you will have ups and downs, but in the end, you'll be much further ahead compared to individuals that jump in and out. Now let's look at some of the government reliefs in terms of tax extensions. Tax return filings and payment dates. And once again, these informations, they're very fluid. There might be changes, but as of now, this is the most current information that I have as of Friday. As it pertains to individuals, the filing dates for 2019 tax year has been extended to June 1st this year. And the payment date for your taxes is also up to September 1st, 2020. For self-employed individuals, it's the same thing for regular employed individuals. For corporations, filing deadlines after March 18th through the end of May have been deferred to June the 1st as well. And the payment date has been extended to September the 1st this year. As it pertains to trust, filing deadlines for the 2019 tax year extended to May 1st, 2020 for trusts with December 31st year ends. Trusts with filing due dates in April or May have been deferred to June the 1st as well, and the payment date extended to September the 1st. GST, HST, import duties, and taxes pertaining to business owners or self-employed individuals as well, depending on the nature of your business. Payments by businesses of GST, HST have been extended, rather deferred until June 30th this year. And as it pertains to CRA or Revenue Canada audit activities, the Canadian Revenue Agency has temporarily suspended audit interaction with taxpayers and representatives for most businesses. However, you want to keep your books in good order, so once they get around to it, you wouldn't have to be dealing with any infractions. Let's look at some economic supports for individuals. The most common one, and the one that came down the pipeline first, was the Canadian Emergency Response Benefit, better known as CERB, in conjunction with employment insurance. The CERB is a taxable benefit of $2,000 per month. However, the government will not be withholding taxes at source or once they pay you the money. You have to remit your taxes next year when you file your 2020 tax return. The benefit amount is up to 16 weeks. If you have stopped working because of reasons related to COVID-19 or are eligible for employment insurance, regular or sickness benefit, or have exhausted their EI regular payments between December 29th, 2019 and October the 3rd, 2020. This includes working parents staying at home to care for the children due to school and daycare closures, applies to wage owners as well as contract workers and self-employed individuals who would not otherwise qualify for EI. It allows people to earn up to $1,000 of work-related income per eligibility period. When they first came out with CERB, you couldn't earn any additional income. That is their most recent change, where you can now earn up to $1,000 and still receive the CERB benefit. As it pertains to employment insurance, it was backdated to March 15th. In this case, it temporarily waived the 1-week waiting period for individuals in imposed quarantine that claim EI sickness benefits. Unless in quarantine, a medical certificate is required to access EI sick benefits. Those who apply for EI on or after March 15th will be processed through the CERB program. After the CERB benefit is exhausted, persons eligible for EI can apply for EI benefits. So essentially, if you lost your job and you're about to apply for EI, but you did not until March 15th or beyond, even though you're approved, what they're going to do is give you the $2,000 per month for up to 16 weeks or 4 months in this case, and thereafter you'll receive your EI benefits. So in essence, you're getting up to 16 weeks of additional payments that you would not have had if it wasn't for COVID-19. So it's a bonus for individuals that way. However, your payment will be less depending on your income, because the maximum monthly benefit for EI is $573 per week rather than $500 per week for the CERB. However, after you've exhausted your CERB, you can still go back and receive your EI benefits depending on your qualifications. Let's look at support for parents and low-income families and seniors. The Canadian Child Benefit. For already qualifying families, there's no need to reapply. Will automatically receive an extra $300, and it's not May, they received it in April. However, for individuals qualifying for the first time, you would want to go ahead and file your taxes to ensure that CRA has the most updated information so you can receive the appropriate amounts. Goods and service tax credit. Also for low and modest income families, a one-time special payment, and it will be received in May. However, they also fast forwarded. Most individuals received it also in April. The average additional benefit will be close to $400 for single individuals and close to $600 for couples. There's no need to apply. Once again, eligible individuals will receive it automatically. as it pertains to seniors in their retirement or their registered retirement income fund, which is a plan that was established after the age of 71. So for individuals that had a RSP account, the government mandates that after the age of 71, you have to take out a certain minimum amount from your account to pay taxes on, because the taxes were deferred up to that point. Because the market is down and they want to ensure that retired seniors have enough money to live on after this period, they are proposing a 25% reduction in minimum withdrawals from the registered retirement income fund. It's optional, it's not mandatory for individuals. Similar rules will apply to individuals receiving variable benefit payments under their defined contribution registered pension plans as well. As it pertains to mortgage support and student loans. Mortgage support. Through Canada's largest banks, they are deferring up to 6 months mortgage payments. That's the principal and the interest. However, the property tax and the mortgage insurance, if you have it through that financial institution, is not deferred. So you'd want to call your local bank and ensure that your mortgage is up to date, hopefully. And on a case-by-case basis, you can receive mortgage deferrals up to 6 months. That's the principal and the interest, not the property tax and not the mortgage insurance if you have it through the bank. And for those individuals that are working from home and your income was not compromised, I would suggest after structuring a deferral period, if you still have that disposable income, why not make additional payments on your mortgage so that the money is going directly to your principal rather than the interest. For IG Wealth Management Mortgage and Solution Banking clients facing financial difficulties, we will work with you on a plan that is best suited for your needs, because we offer mortgages and home equity line of credits as well. For students and recent grads, there's a moratorium in regards to 6 months interest-free payments in regards to your student loans. As it pertains to students, there is some new information that came out on Friday. I don't have it on the slide, but I will read this information to you and I will answer any questions as well as have the information submitted and updated on the website that you can have it access to you via a Word document as well. On Friday last week, the government announced the Canada Emergency Student Benefit for current students and recent graduates. Those that are unable to find full-time employment or unable to work due to COVID-19. If you are single, between May and August this year, you will receive $1,250. If you are a student and a parent or have a disability, you will receive $1,750 between the months of May and August. And this will be administered through CRA. They also announced on Friday the Canada Student Service Grant, up to $5,000 towards tuition. The student must volunteer in a COVID-19 essential service area. Applications, funding, and eligibility are forthcoming. On Friday, we also announced the Student Financial Assistance Enhancement. They're now relaxing student loans eligibility, and they are doubling the non-repayment grants. So typically when you apply for a student loan, you will receive a grant as well as a loan component that you must repay, and the grant you don't have to repay. In times as such, the government will be doubling the non-repayment grants. So you want to look out for that announcement as well.
This is Len. Just 1 second. Could you just go over that one piece in regards to students who may be unemployed or have seasonal employment,
Yes.
university students, and the grant? Is it a grant that's available for tuition if they volunteer at a COVID-related site? Could you explain
Yes.
that
You want
one
me to
more
answer
time?
now or you want me to answer it at the end? Because I can,
If you could just go over it again now, that would be great.
okay. Okay, so you want me to start from the student benefit in terms of the amount they will receive or just pertaining to the grant?
Just the grant piece.
Okay, so there's a Canada Student Service Grant, and you can receive up to $5,000 to be applied towards your tuition. You must volunteer in a COVID-19 essential service area. However, applications, funding, eligibility is still forthcoming. So in the next week or two, they will be forthcoming with the details of it. They just made the general announcement. And then there's also a Student Financial Assistance Enhancement Fund. The federal government is relaxing the eligibility to qualify for student loans. But more importantly, they are doubling the non-repayable grants. So typically a student loan is divided with a grant component that you don't have to repay and a loan component that you have to repay. They are doubling the area in which you don't have to repay. So that's a good thing. And then there's also a student and youth program as well. The details are forthcoming, but they have different categories basically. There's one where you can also volunteer called I Want to Help in supporting areas once again pertaining to COVID-19. For job placements, they're offering up to 70,000 student job placements coming up as well. So you want to pay attention to the program. And also for those that are doing research and their postdoctoral fellowship, there are also grants as well that are being made available. And these were all announced on Friday, 2 days ago. In addition to which, this is still on the books, the Canada Summer Jobs Program. And this is the temporary changes to the program for this year. There's an increase in the wage subsidy. Private and public sector employers can receive up to 100% of the provincial or territorial minimum hourly wage for each employee. An extension to the end date for employment to February 28th, 2021, allowing employers to adapt their projects and job activities to support essential services. Also allowing employers to hire staff on a part-time basis. So essentially, they can receive a subsidy to pay minimum wage to individuals during this time. Let's look at some measures supporting businesses and employees. There's the Canada Emergency Wage Subsidy. Will cover 75% of wages up to a weekly maximum subsidy of $847 per employee. Will also cover the employer's portion as it pertains to the Canadian Pension Plan or the Quebec Pension Plan, and EI for eligible employees on leave with pay. It's retroactive to March 15th, applies to the 12-week period of March 15th to June the 6th, 2020, split into 3 eligible periods. For businesses that have experienced a decrease in revenue of at least 15% for the month of March, because we are backdating to March the 15th, and moving forward for April and May, there must be a year-over-year decrease in revenue of at least 30%. There's also an option to use average revenues in January and February of this year as a reference period for comparison. And it's not based on the number of people employed. So essentially, once you can show a year-over-year comparison in a reduction of revenue for March, 15%, so 2019 compared to 2020, and for April and May, a 30% reduction in revenue, the employer can qualify for the wage subsidy for their employees, where the employer will receive this subsidy of 75%, but they will have to pay the 25%. And the maximum income received by employees would be $40,000 at this time. What is eligible remuneration? It may include salary, wages, and other remuneration, but would not include severance pay or items such as stock option benefits or the personal use of a corporate vehicle. Who is an eligible employer? It includes individuals, taxable corporations, and partnerships consisting of eligible employers. The subsidy will also be available to charities and non-profits. There's also the temporary small business wage subsidy. It provides eligible small employers a temporary wage subsidy for a period of up to 3 months, equal to 10% of remuneration paid during that period, up to a maximum of $1,375 per employee and $25,000 per employer. To benefit, employers can reduce their remittances of income tax withheld on their employees' remuneration, starting in the first remittance period for remuneration between March 18th to June 20th this year. A special note: benefits received under the temporary small business wage subsidy will reduce potential benefits under the CEWS, which is the Canada Emergency Wage Subsidy. So we cannot completely double dip, but the employer in this case can benefit from both programs, but they will make adjustments to their benefit. Extending the work sharing program is another program. Employers impacted by a downturn in business may benefit from temporary changes to the existing EI work sharing program, helping them retain their employees during slower times. The work sharing program provides EI benefits to workers who agree to reduce their normal working hours as a result of developments beyond the control of their employers. Some of the temporary changes to this program will include: 1, there's an extension to the eligibility of such agreements to 76 weeks. There's an ease of eligibility requirements, and the application process is much more streamlined. Layoffs, constructive dismissal, and severances. It's important to note for employers during a time as such. Laying off an employee may be considered constructive dismissal or termination of employment unless contemplated in employment contract. Employment standards legislation in every province ensures that an employer must provide the employee with reasonable notice. The length will vary from province to province. However, an employer can choose to pay the employee's salary for that period in lieu of notice as well. The actual severance payment required under the law will depend upon the circumstance of each situation. Key point to remember for everyone listening, whether you're an employee or an employer, is you want to contact a lawyer with expertise in employment law to assess the reasonableness of any severance, termination packages that you will offer if you're an employer, or that's offered to you if you are an employee. Let's look at some of the options to increasing available credit. There's also the Business Credit Availability Program. And this program will provide more than $65 billion in support, targeting largely small and mid-sized businesses through the Business Development Bank of Canada and Export Development Canada. Businesses seeking support should contact their financial institution as an initial step, because most of the programs have been outsourced to most of the major banks, and they have most of the steps that you need to go through in terms of applying. So please contact your major bank and they can explain the business credit availability application process to you in much more detail. Support for farmers. If we know of a farmer or of anyone that's a farmer, the near-term credit available to farmers and the agri-food sector will be increased by $5 billion through the Farm Credit Canada program. There's also the Canada Emergency Business Account. Will allow banks to provide loans up to $40,000 guaranteed by the Government of Canada to qualifying small businesses. It's interest-free for the first year, and there's also a loan forgiveness of 25% up to $10,000 if the balance is repaid on or before December 31st, 2022. And according to the details as well, if perchance the loan is not paid by December 31st, 2022, and that's the minimum of 75% because they are forgiving 25%, they will extend that into a 3-year loan at 5%. To qualify, businesses and not-for-profits will need to demonstrate that they paid between $20,000 to $1.5 million in total payroll in 2019. And I also want to mention another announcement that was mentioned on Friday, but I have it here. It's also the Canada Emergency Commercial Rent Assistance. There are many business owners that are renting commercial spaces, and rent tend to be the largest expense for a lot of business owners. There are programs for the employees, but there wasn't any relief for tenants in commercial space as it pertains to rent. So an announcement was made by the federal government on Friday, and I will read you this information. The Canada Emergency Commercial Rent Assistance will be available in mid-May. So there are a lot of details that are still working out, but they made the announcement. However, tenants will receive a 75% reduction. You must be a small business owner or medium business owner, and regardless of the type of business, be it for-profit, non-for-profit, or charity. The benefit period will be between April to June 2020. There must be a temporary cessation in operation, meaning that you're not operating now because of COVID-19, or you had a 70% reduction in pre-COVID-19 revenues. Your rent must be less than $50,000 per month. In addition to the tenants, the landlords will get a 50% forgivable loan to cover rent payments that they should be receiving between April and June of this year. In addition, landlords have also agreed to not evict any tenants between April and June of this year. And this is the Canada Emergency Commercial Rent Assistance Program. With this presentation, I have a summary of the various programs and the relevant links. So once again, this is recorded, so this information will be forwarded to you so that you can access these information in the most expedited manner. Let's talk about how we can help individuals now apply these information, apply these resources and solutions to their individual lives. Because you have some individuals that are still gainfully employed working from home. Some individuals are on EI, be it sick benefit, be it because they stopped working. Some individuals are still trying to cope with their businesses as well as their personal lives. But at the end of the day, everyone needs a plan. Let's talk about why a synchronized, holistic financial plan has never been more important. At IG Wealth Management, the goal is that every client of ours should not have to worry during a time as such. The reason why is that we ensure that we focus on the 6 areas that you see on the screen. The first area I'll start with is the one in managing cash flow efficiently. We focus on their balance sheet, their monthly budget, what's coming in, what's going out, how you're managing credit. Are you just paying the minimum payment? Are you paying off your credit card at the end of the month? What's your priority in terms of the things you have going on? Are you in percentages in terms of, be it mortgage, be it rent, be it transportation, be it personal expenses, you name it. We assess and give feedback on whether you're in the ideal situation. And we give you a score out of 100, and we want your score to at least be 85 and above. The next thing is preparing for the unexpected. No one expected COVID-19. Most people don't expect prolonged unemployment or a critical medical illness or an unexpected death to a major breadwinner. But these situations do happen. And we want to ensure that you are prepared for these scenarios. So when they occur, you will be impacted, but your impact will be less than individuals that did not have a plan. So we ensure that all of our clients are prepared for the unexpected, not just the knowledge, but the application. We also ensure that you're prepared for planning for major expenditures, as the image includes. That's acquiring a mortgage, paying off the mortgage, sending our kids to college or university, and ensuring that these goals can be realized. And these tend to be long-term goals, right? So we want to ensure that it's properly funded as well, also taking into account times as such. There are individuals that are not only running their personal households, there are individuals that run small to medium-sized and even large businesses as well. And they want to ensure that their business and their entity is properly structured, protected, tax efficient, with a succession plan, and even buy-sell agreements. We go over all those scenarios with you. The next thing is you want to ensure that you're optimizing your retirement. Rather than using the word retirement, I use the word income independent. We ensure all of our clients have a date in the future in which they do not have to work again, and they have enough money coming in from the Canadian Pension Plan, Old Age Security, their workplace pension plan, if they have one, in the form of a defined benefit plan or defined contribution plan or a group RSP plan or a profit sharing plan, as well as their personal savings and investments of 10% on a monthly basis. And that will replace the income that they earn during their lifetime, and then they can truly retire. So it is a point in which you are income independent, not necessarily sitting home in a rocking chair, okay? And we wanna make sure that's a reality at the latest date, age 65. But there are some clients that do it in the 50s, early 50s, late 50s, early 60s, but we want to make sure that you do not have to work for the rest of your days. And sharing your wealth. During a time as which COVID-19, because we don't have a vaccine, individuals are also in self-quarantine because they know if they have a vulnerable immunity or immune system, they might contract COVID-19, and for some reason, they might pass away. So if you pass away as a result of COVID-19, a heart attack, stroke, cancer, living to a ripe old age, any of the above scenarios, you cannot take your financial resources with you. You want to ensure that the money that you worked for and God has blessed you with is passed on to the next generation in the most efficient manner according to Canadian law. Most people that live in Canada happen to be immigrants and we come from other countries, but we are not familiar with the Canadian system. So you want to ensure that your plan is up to date with the best case scenarios as it pertains to Canada. The process, and we're wrapping up here in the next 2 minutes, and we'll be opening up for question and answers. The process is pretty simple. This is how we do it. 1, we explore your current situation. 2, we clarify your goals and objectives. 3, we develop a comprehensive plan for you. 4, we customize your investment programs. We implement a holistic strategy, and we proactively monitor and adjust your plan. We work with a team of experts. This is you in the middle. That'll be me, your primary person, like your family doctor. We have in-house specialists from tax, estate, trust, insurance, mortgage, and we also want to work in conjunction with your lawyer and accountant just to ensure we are on the same page. And the last thing we do is we stress test it. We ensure that not only you have a good plan, but you have a sustainable plan that can withstand economic impacts such as COVID-19, unemployment, a critical illness, premature death if you have a significant other or children depending on you. At the end of the day, we put an A, B, and even a C plan in place to ensure that you are successful or your estate or those that you have responsibility for are taken care of in the long run. And in summary, the last presentation, we want to ensure you have a robust living plan developed to weather all market conditions. Diversification will help create stability. Time reduces volatility, and you want to stay invested. Discipline and focus on long-term goals will serve you well. This may be an opportunity to review your business and personal cash flow needs. And if you want to discuss further, I'll be happy to do that for you. And now we're going to open it up with Len for question and answers for individuals that send it into the forum or just have it directly ask a question to me.